Hey everyone, welcome back. We've got a Harrow Prime level camp video today.
Thanks, Zion.
This rounds out the newest Prime release, with my most recent videos on the SCOURGE and Knell Prime. If you wanted a smooth, easy way to reach level 9999 with Harrow, then this is the video for you. Granted, if you were there for when I did this run live, you'll know I went down plenty of times. It was definitely user error, and a tiny little bit of build problems that I have fixed since, and me playing super aggro and greedy. This is actually a pretty safe build, but is intended for group level camp runs. This is not a solo level camp setup, as I do find solo level camp can get a bit boring, but you can tweak it also for that. The build is missing a form of massive CC, but could be easily swapped out for a blind of some kind. I went for a little bit different build for some more fun in this group run. I also finally managed to reach level cap with Depths, another awesome fellow content creator and streamer on Twitch. I say finally because the last time we tried, I was host migrated twice on 2 separate attempts live on stream around round 30 steel path disruption each time due to a shaky hotfix patch 2 weeks ago. That was about 6 hours of content down the drain. Luckily, these host migrations plague us no longer. If you want to check out our socials, I've included it down in the description and pinned comment. We're also on our own journey to Twitch partner and nearly there, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you could stop by for a chat, say hi, or maybe even stick around for the memes and drop a follow. Anything is fine. Alright, so what is going on with this Harrow Prime loadouts? Basically, I cut back on the power scaling and CC to show a couple of things, and a sort of minimum requirements on what I can scrape by with on a level cap run. This is a Seeking Shuriken Harrow. I replaced this one with it. Yes. Now, if you're DPSing with guns all the time, you could just bring an armor strip Vastalok instead and not even need a CC whatsoever since you already have his one. Or you could opt for Muzzle Flash, Breach Surge, Radio Blind, or Silence too, depending on what you wanted to do. But I wanted to kill trash mobs with a Rack to Dark Dagger on this setup, so I opted for Seeking Shuriken to instantly strip Demolyst for gun DPS. Now you may be thinking that I'm running an Argonac for the Metal Auger augment so I can strip armor op with my Rakta instantly, but actually I'm not, as I wanted to prove you don't actually need it. Yes, it makes it better, but without it, this show's daggers are still an extremely strong weapon type as is, with good stance combos and stats regardless of the Metal Auger armor strip interaction or not. So we went pure slash kind of setup this time to kill trash mobs. Now a heavy attack setup on daggers can also deal with Demolysts, but that's not what I wanted to do today. My weapon for Demolysts was a Spirex. Originally I wanted to use Zymos, but I learned that shooting the heads of Demolysts, you see this explosion that creates secondary projectiles? The crazy, insane damage of Zymos scales from these secondary projectiles. That's the part that double dips crit mods and has multiplicative eclipse scaling with gun CO. Against Demolysts, it doesn't make these secondary projectiles. The head simply explodes and you get nothing else, meaning you lose nearly 90% of your damage. It's a shame, but it is what it is. Zymos would have been awesome because if you've seen my older videos on it, well, on Harrow it can reach tier 17 red crits. Yes, tier 17 red crits, it's that insane. So we had to pick a different weapon. I was short on time as I only figured out that headshot Demolyst bug while live on stream when we already had a scheduled level cap with depths, so I chose Spirex. In hindsight, it does actually work, but I definitely did not play it well, because I chose not to use Argonac. This actually does free up my primary slot, which I use for a Bubonical primer. It also offered some CC, which was extremely handy since I subsumed off Harrow's 1, meaning there was no hard CC left on the build. Which is also the reason why I said this specific variant of Harrow is for team level cap setups and not solo. You're relying on your Bubonical to CC enemies. Otherwise, just keep Harrow's base kit, or blinds on his 1 like I said, and use Argonac for instant strip with a dagger melee. If you want to see how the Argonac setup works with Rakta perfectly on Harrow, click the card at the top right. Now that you know why I chose this loadout, let's take a closer look. The Harrow build first. This is the part that actually works on almost any setup. If you wanted to repurpose this for a Helminth-less Harrow, or a blind assume over his 1, or his 2, such as Breach Surge, Radio Blind, or Muzzle Flash, if you aren't DPSing with guns, then I would recommend dropping Narrow-Minded for just Augur Message. This restores your range to neutral, which is more than enough for blind subsumes. Otherwise, this kit works as is for shredding Demolysts without relying on a Vast Lock for armor strip. Though you will lose a mass CC like I said, Seeking Shuriken strips 100% armor off anything it hits so long as you are at 143 strength or higher. This can get nullified by Demolyst pulses though, so expect to have to recast it once or twice depending on your DPS window timing. It also seems to usually target the closest enemy in your FOV, so it can get difficult to consistently strip a Demolyst in a crowd of enemies. Learn spawns early in the run so you can get to them alone. Harrow and his prime now also always spawn with max energy with an innate preparation effect as of his primed release and kit update. So primed flow helps with that immensely as you can instantly set up energy regen with his 3. This is actually extremely important because his 3 will be the only way to get energy back on this build. We aren't running Energize or even Zeneric. His 3 is powerful enough to even get you energy back during energy drain conduit effects at level cap, so you can cast Seeking Shuriken, and Covenant completely negates the drain while you are invulnerable. Vigor swap because we will be swapping between weapons a lot, be it primers or DPS tools, so this functions as extra setup damage. Rolling guard is mandatory to get rid of those pesky status effects, especially if conduits give enemies heat or electric damage. Prime continuity to push our duration even longer, which is handy for keeping our 3 round as long as possible without having to reset, and a ridiculous duration on our 4. The iframes can help you set up for Demolysts. Usually I cast Covenant when I insert a key so that I can spend those 15 seconds stacking up the crit buff and trying to find it. Then I have 30 seconds of max crits to deal with the Demolyst for reds. Sometimes it won't work out properly, and that's fine, you can just stall. Technically you can also jump off the map, but keep in mind this will also reset your 3 and 2, which can get problematic. Intensify for more strength scaling of the amount of buffs it gives your 2, which will magnify the fire rate and reload buff massively to 80% and 160% stats respectively. It also makes your 4 easier to stack, but honestly incoming damage isn't hard to stack in Disruption. Blind Rage because efficiency is a free stat on Harrow, and Prime Sure-Footed to prevent knocks as that spells death in level cap runs. The aura is whatever, I just chose enemy radar so I can see where enemies spawn better and detect down the Demolyst moving on the map when I have the pet radar to stack with it. Now about the Helminth, I would not recommend getting rid of his 1 unless you have a way to get overshields back, which we do here because I'm using Rakta Dark Dagger. The arcanes cater towards my DPS tools today, a melee to kill fodder and a pistol to kill the Demolyst. So I offloaded fire rate and attack speed onto arcanes to save slots on the weapons. For the focus schools, like I said, we are bringing Vazarin for protective dash to give myself much more iframes and spare room, say in case there's a level cap knocks, as that toxin damage will one-shot you otherwise. Let's take a look at the weapons we're bringing. The first one, Bubonico, our primer. Why? Because this is a team comp, meaning I don't need to bring Cedo to double as a CC tool. Bubonical is still decent for that, albeit not as effective, but where it does excel is as a primer. In Disruption you want to hunt down to Demolyst ASAP, which means often it will be alone once you learn the spawns. Cedo sucks at priming when there isn't at least 2 enemies. Bubonical has innate viral, allowing us some interesting priming options. This one is built for heat, corrosive, and viral. Why heats? Well, see, I was using a heat inherent primer setup. So this Bubonical actually has 3 mods on it: Incendiary Coat, Blaze, and Scattering Inferno for 210% heat weight. This is better than our non-shotgun primaries as Blaze is unique to shotguns. It's still weaker than pistol primers as they have prime key to charge so they can reach 255% heat, but we are DPSing with the pistol and can't do that. Viral to multiply our heat damage further, and corrosive because that's the only other secondary status I can fit on this build besides magnetic. primed Bane because in Heat inherent setups, the Primer's Bane is actually one of the two Banes used in the double dip calculation. Hunter Track for more status duration, and a regular Shotgun Savvy, since we won't be getting any kills with this weapon. Soft Hands for faster swap since we will be swapping between guns to deal with Demolysts, and Primary Dexterity for extra combo duration on our melee to deal with fodder. Now for our Demolyst DPS weapon today, I've chosen the Tenet Spirex. Remember how I said I picked Corrosive instead of Magnetic to mod on my Bubonico? That's because this is a 60% magnetic progenitor Spirex to cover that element already. The Bubonico will proc Impact, Heats, Corrosive, and Max Viral on the all-fire when priming. You can also shoot the primary fire for a moment if you want Slash. Spirex will give us Puncture and Magnetic as extra statuses. This gives us 6 or 7 status effects to fuel into Galvanized Shot for a bonus 720 or 840% base damage. This is extremely important because without this, your only source of base damage is Primary Dexterity for 360% base. Without Galvanized Shot active, which requires kills, you will lose 2/3 of your damage on the Demolyst. I actually learned this the hard way because some of the Demolysts I fought I didn't have Gun Seal active and I nearly couldn't kill them as a result at level cap. So why did I bring Spirex? Because I just wanted to try something different. It's my favorite pistol afterwards Pandero, which isn't really a level cap pistol. But Spirex has very high raw damage with a fair amount of status and decent fire rate on Harrow setups with fast reloads as well. It ended up being slightly lacking in Heat inherent procs, but it could still get the job done. In the future, I would definitely recommend making sure your gun CO is procced before heading to the demo. Camp around the area until you hear the ping, and then you have 14 seconds to burst it down, which should be more than enough. Galvanized Crosses is also very reliant on getting these kills, but it was a free slot so I wasn't sure what else to bring. It is easy to stack with Seeking Shuriken against fodder, but 12-second duration kind of hurts since it all expires at once. For ease of use, maybe a Lethal Torrent or Hollow Point would have been more effective for 100% mod uptime instead of even tighter requirements. The rest of the mods are pretty self-explanatory. Anemic for Spray and Pray, combined with Harrow's 2 giving 80% fire rate lets you fire lightning fast at 6.3. While the reload is 2.4 seconds, aiming at head procs up to a 50% reload speed passive from the weapon, which combined with Penance's 160% reload buff cuts this down to just 0.77 seconds. We're once again slotting secondary dexterity to increase the combo duration of our Rakta dagger another 7.5 seconds, allowing it to reach 20 seconds, which is fine without Neramon, especially because we aren't relying on it to kill Demolists. The stacks last forever, so killing fodder with a dagger will easily provide us with a 360% base damage into Spirex. We also get that sweet holster speed bonus as well to swap between Spirex and Bubonico. Eject magazine to passively reload it while you're swinging away with your melee, or have Bubonico out. We only need Scourge on because all the heat percent for Heat Inherit comes from the primer for damage calculations, hence the triple heat mods on Bubonico. We do need another primed Bane on Spirex though, as both Banes from the primer and DPS are used for double dip calculations on Heat Inherit strats. Now, for the melee, Rakta Dark Dagger. This weapon is the reason I was able to subsume off Harrow's 1. This dagger gives you back shields, including overshields, based on the damage you inflict to enemies affected by radiation procs. As the weapon itself is innately radiation, this really shouldn't be a problem. Just keep in mind Demolists cannot be afflicted with radiation, so don't rely on this to keep your shields up if you want to use it as a Demolist DPS tool. It does have the firepower to kill though, as dagger heavy attacks hit twice and have force slash, but that's not what we're using it for today. This is a generic light attack spam slash setup on the dagger, as the stance itself actually has force proc slash and I don't need to rely on IPS. Primed reach to 4.75 meters, which works perfectly since daggers have 0.9 follow through for most of the damage staying intact when hitting multiple targets. Prime Smite to double dip the bleeds, and the typical scaling Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds on a 12x combo setup. Crit chance only reaches 78% with Blood Rush and Gladiator Might set bonus, but that's enough for a rapid hitting weapon to deal with fodder. Weeping Wounds pushes the status to 162, which is absolutely enough to fuel Condition Overload, which we can also prime beforehand with Bubonico for Corrosive, Viral, Heat, and Impact to add another 320% base damage on top of what Radiation, Slash, and Puncture provide from Rakta itself for 240%. Basically, priming with Bubonico doubles our total damage output and then also adds Viral procs. Quickening for faster attack speed and rebuild combos, since it will probably fall up while you're fighting a Demolist, as we only have 20 seconds combo duration, but keep in mind it is also stacked with Arcane Strike for even better ease of use. The shields restored by Rakta scale by damage dealt, so with CO it is super easy to instantly max out our overshields in 2 or 3 hits. It also only restores shields while you have shields remaining, which is why Augur mods are important, so that if we bottom out our shield gate, we can instantly get it back by casting Seeking Shuriken on something, and then meleeing enemies with Rakta. You may have noticed I didn't have auger mods on the Harrow build though, nor the pistol since we were using it as our Demolyst DPS. That's because I brought a Jin, this time instead of Panzer. While this means we don't have Martyr Symbiosis failsafe for a quarter-second health gate if we screw up, we can use this Sentinel as an auger stat stick. Why Jin? It is the only Sentinel with infinite revives, like Panzer through its Awakened precept. We got the standard synth mods to reload Spirex even faster, stacking with the eject magazine to now reload 30% per second while we have Rakta or Bubonico out. Assault mode is here, but unranked to minimize what it will shoot at within 17.5 meters. If you're worried about it drawing aggro and dying, you can unequip this. Its purpose was to proc Blast and Corrosive as additional status effects for condition overload mods on our loadout. Rest is pretty generic honestly. The important parts, though, are Primed Animal Instinct to see spawns better, especially Demolysts moving fast on the map, which we're stacking with enemy radar for 63 meter radius detect, Vacuum for obvious reasons, and Guardian to fully regenerate our shields and reset shield gate. This is actually extremely handy for another reason besides just free shield gate regen. When you cast your 2, you will get shields back due to the auger set bonus, leaving you at non-zero as the shields consumed are determined based on pre-auger proc. But if you cast your 2 with capped over shields, you won't get any shields back at the start, leaving you at 0 and breaking your own shield gate while stuck in the animation, which can get you killed. I actually died in the run quite a few times specifically because of this reason, and without having Guardian equipped on my Jin. Guardian will reset your shield to full even if you bottom it out yourself after casting your 2 with capped over shields. So definitely bring this mod as it will massively improve your survivability. And yes, this mod is exclusive to Sentinels, pets don't have it. You may ask why I primed regen if I have Awakening also. It's kind of a redundant mod, but primed regen procs before reawaken, meaning if you haven't burnt down all the primed regen lives, you will instantly get Jin back on death instead of having to wait 30 seconds. I added Decay Dragon Key on this Harrow because max overshields with and without it are 2,550 versus 3,000. Which doesn't really have much of a noticeable difference. Your 2 will last 99 seconds instead of 117. Big deal. But it means you are much more likely to cap out your base shields again when you swing your Rakta and proc its passive, once again massively improving your odds of survival by instantly maxing out the 150 base shields. This is the same reason why I didn't equip Redirection on Harrow, as 99 seconds is way more than enough. And regardless of level cap, enemies are going to one-shot your shields no matter if it's 2,000 shields or 3,000. For the last bits, the Prisma Burst Laser build. This is the true reason I brought Jin. The Burst Laser family is the only pistol weapon Sentinels can bring in the entire game. And Panzer can't use this. MOAs can, but they don't have infinite lives and need manual revives, and draw a ton of aggro naturally. So this is just for the 2 auger mods and the Blast Corrosive for CO procs like I said, but really for the 2 auger mods so it can Seeking Shuriken and get shield gate back instantly with Rakta. And there you go, the level cap Harrow setup. This is the particular Rakta Spirex build I ran for it, but you could easily swap out the pistol for something even stronger. Like a Spectra Vandal Slash setup. That would be lethal with the Covenant Red crit headshots, or Catabolist's broken grenade calculations, or Knell Prime, which is the only reason I didn't use it because 1, I just made a Knell video, and 2, Dystopia also made a Knell video for Disruption level cap around a week ago. You should know by now generally I don't like covering the same topic somebody else has done unless discussed with them beforehand. If you want an easier time though, yes, Knell is probably best if they have heads, and Spectra Vandal if they don't. And then you don't need Seeking Shuriken, it can just use Condemn, or a Blind instead with Vastalok. It was plenty of fun, and I hope you can enjoy this build also. Thanks again Depths, Zeke, and Chris the Thunder for coming on this run. It was a blast. Short of all my misplays and downs, maybe in the future I can once again make a stream bet to down less than Depths and I'll finally win for once. Speaking of which, Zeke, our favorite resident level camper, has helped tons of Warframe streamers and creators reach the coveted level 9,999 in the past 6 months. He's starting his own YouTube journey also now, so how about we show him a little bit of love and drop him a sub. Also, make sure to check out Depths on Twitch. I've linked everyone's socials down in the description and pinned comment. Thanks again for all of your support. If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like, or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible, like I've done with covering all of this new war stuff. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be for this video. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.